thing that allow you to just pay the resources you're using, and the scalability and elasticity.
Another thing we can mention is that thanks to the efficiency of the DevOps group and cycle, is that there's increased focus on business value. There's also reduced management costs, thanks to efficient use of cloud resources, and also infrastructure staff reduction. Now, implementing DevOps may be complex depending on the state of the technical team and the whole organization of a company, and that's why we wanted to mention some details and costs and benefits that are related in an implementation of DevOps. So these are, for example, training and adaptability. This is because DevOps includes a lot of techniques, a lot of technologies and tools that the different teammates have to learn, so there is an investment there. Related to that, the highly skilled team, it is not trivial, and it is something that requires time. We also have time to gather experience, because you can have certifications and you can have all of the theoretical knowledge, but it's different when you get the hands-on experience. And also the software tools and licenses, because nowadays there's a lot of tools and a lot of technology, so there is a challenge in that.
We also have the costs of the complex architecture that DevOps implies on, the cloud architecture, the DevOps pipelines, the unit testing, and as Jose said on the second point, the skilled team members that are needed for this, the skilled developers and the skilled software architects with experience in testing and cloud. We also have the time spent in automating tasks. Although it is lower, there is time and cost implied in automating tasks, and in the configuration of the architecture and other details for the DevOps pipelines. There is also a cost in increased communication process between the developers and the operations.
And then we're going to talk about some benefits of DevOps. On the other hand, as we can see, we can have lower lead time and fast time to market, alignment with business objectives, and this allows us, because DevOps applies all the agile practices, and then also the agile culture of collaboration, and finally, it's a culture by practitioners for practitioners.
Mm-hmm. Another set of benefits that DevOps brings to the organization is that it has less failures and needed recovery, preparing the team to be fast and agile when there is some errors in the architecture. We have consistency, because automation helps us to maintain consistent architectures. We have more time to innovate. Thanks to automation, our developers can spend more time creating new features, and we have greater speed and stability.
Now we are going to talk about the objectives we have as a team. As first, we have the leading technologies. It was to use the most of the leading technologies on the market, get some hands-on experience with that, so we can just get the technologies that most adapt to our project.
Another of our objectives is getting certifications, and this is because we know in the industry there is a lot of certifications, and different certifications are valid in a different way depending on the companies. So we wanted to start our professional path through the certifications and get used to the e-education and all that it's related.
And finally, build real applications for real solutions, and we want to make an impact with this real application or real project that we are going to make.
Now we are going to stop talking about the stagnant technologies that we use, the tools we use in DevOps, in programming, and any other software that we use in Allied Global and in HawkAI. First, one of the first frameworks, front-end frameworks we used was React.js. It is a single-page application library which uses a special syntax called JSX, which allows us to include HTML code inside the JavaScript code. This is one of the reasons why React is the most popular framework right now in the market.
Another technology we use in the front end is AngularJS, and this is the front end framework maintained by Google. And the good thing about Angular is that it combines really good technologies such as Node.js and also the programming language called TypeScript. So that allows for the ability of building robust front end solutions.
And the framework that we had most experience with is Vue.js, which is the fastest growing framework in the market and adopted by the community. It's also worth mentioning that it's maintained by an open source community, and it's a really efficient and fast framework using reactive components and reactive variables.
And then for the backend side, we could have some hands-on experience with C#. We could build a web API project with that, and we could also isolate all the front end and the back end so they can communicate with just API endpoints. We could also have some experience with the DTOs that are data transfer objects, and we can handle also business logic that was related to the project we did on Allied Global.
We also work using serverless architecture using AWS Lambda functions. This can be resumed in serverless functions. Once that we do not need any servers for running of them, the cloud providers work on that. We decided to use the AWS Lambda functions instead of the Google Cloud Platform or Azure competence because we found easier to deploy in them using Terraform then, and for the API gateway, that we found that AWS was better at that.
And we also got the chance to work with Node.js. Node.js is an execution environment that is based on JavaScript, and the way it's built is especially useful for building microservices, which is the way we applied it because it allows for scalability and for speed and efficiency. So that's why we use Node. One of the most important parts of backend solution and platform in general is having a database. We got the chance to work with different technologies, NoSQL technologies and SQL technologies, and one of them is Firebase. Firebase is Google's NoSQL database solution, and for the OKI application, we used it for user management and authentication.
Then the main database for us was MySQL. We did this because it was a database was a SQL database, and in that database we save all the metadata of the user, and we also have the experience to mix with Firebase to have a hybrid design for our databases.
Another database engine that we had experience with is PostgreSQL, which is one of the leading tools for database management and is considered one of the most efficient. It also provides the option to manage object relational data, which is an extra. And we had experience to work with it in a serverless environment using Amazon Aurora.
Now, after we have talked about what stack did we use, what kind of tools they were, we are going to talk about how we apply them in Allied Global and in OKI. Starting by Azure DevOps, this was the tool that allowed us to have an agile planning, to have a DevOps team. As we can see, we have here we have the backlog, the sprints. We have the backlog divided by Scrum in epics, features, and PBIs. We also had a planning here. We had our Scrum ceremonies. We had a sprint retrospective in which we were able to talk as a team in what we succeeded, what we failed, what we can do to make it better in the next sprint. After that, we had the sprint planning, in which we decided which PBIs, which tasks we were going to be working on during the next sprint, based on the priority that we had on them.
And as we can see here, we have all the PBIs that still remaining to work, and also the velocity that we have to the forecast all the sprints that has to be done for us to complete all the remaining PBIs. As you can see also, all the PBIs are estimated, and also we can see here an example of one of the 34 sprints we have, and also the breakdown chart that we have that was used for the estimated of the PBIs.
And one of the useful details of Azure DevOps is that as sprints passed, we as a group got to know each other and how we work. We started estimating better and working more efficiently, and that's why in the forecast we placed a velocity of 35, which is the final value we ended up forecasting our sprints on. So that gives us a clear path on how we're gonna finish the project.
I also think it's important to mention that we have 7-day sprints. We started on Monday and ended on Sundays. We had a sprint retrospective every Sunday, and on Saturday we met with Oscar every morning.
And we get everything documented right across different sprints since we started. So everything that you guys did is already recorded there, right?
Right. So all of the tools we had for collaboration, we used tools right for almost all the things that we needed to share between us. In here we include the meetings that Oscar just said. The weekly meetings are uploaded to Google Drive. We have our entire documentation on code standards, on diagrams.